Geek Therapy Radio.
Special people change. How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high? Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide, in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide, in a champagne supernova, a champagne supernova in the sky.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. I am, of course, your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger. I say, of course. If you're new to Geek Therapy Radio, you don't know the of course yet, but I am regularly, all the time, every show, the mental curator for Geek Therapy Radio. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining me today, and hopefully many, many more days in the future as we explore this geeky universe in this geeky world together. A few days ago, I put out a call on, I didn't do it on Twitter, I think I only did it on Facebook. Regardless, whenever I put out these calls, very few people tend to respond to them. It's just the law of averages. So part of me thinks, why do I ever ask anybody to send me anything? Then I have a few listeners, like Dan, friend of the show, Dan, who I shared, he sent me a picture of his Triforce tattoo a while back, and I shared that on my Instagram page and on Twitter. He got a Triforce tattoo, so he responded again saying, the call I put out was, hey, what are you guys doing in this quarantine? Or quarantine or not, maybe you're still, lucky enough to be going back and forth to work and have a steady job, but what are you guys doing these days, guys and gals doing these days, as far as new hobbies, as far as old hobbies, whatever's on your mind, whatever you're geeking out about currently? And Dan reached out to me again, and he has been geeking out over a new instrument. He says he's learned a few instruments in the past, he's studied a few instruments in the past, but one instrument he's always been fascinated by, and under the given circumstances of today's world, he's actually picked up and started to tinker with. I'm a big fan of tinkering. He picked up and has started to learn quite well, actually, the ocarina from Zelda. And he sent me, it's almost too good to be true, but he actually sent me an audio file of him playing the ocarina, and you will recognize the tune. So he sent it to me. I asked his permission if I could play it on the podcast, and he was absolutely thrilled about that idea. So let's hear how far Dan has been advancing with the ocarina. And I'm sure by the time this airs, he will have, progressed even further. So maybe he'll give us regular updates. Dan, if you're listening, I'm not holding your feet to that flame. You don't have to keep sending me ocarina tunes. But let's hear what he's up to in the meantime. That's actually pretty darn good. You know what? I'm going to upgrade the profanity a little bit there. That's actually pretty damn good. I was genuinely impressed. Not that I didn't have full faith in you, Dan, but when you said you had been tinkering and dabbling with the ocarina, and that you sent me an audio file, I was like, oh, well, this will be... I was going to be encouraging either way. I mean, for us to be good at anything, we have to suck first. So I was fully expecting, and again, it's not to be mean to you or anything like that at all. It's just, hey, you first started with something. If I said I had first started with the guitar and I said, let me play you something, expectations would not be that high naturally. So when you sent me that file, I was thrilled to listen to it, but even more, I was laughing and giggling geekily that it was actually so good. So thank you so much for sharing that, Dan. If anybody else is listening and you're working on anything that's related to audio, or you just want to tell me what you're working on, maybe you've been painting more or reading a good book that not a lot of us might know about, or playing a game that a lot of us might not know about, or that do know about it. I've just started playing Half-Life Alyx. Maybe I'll talk about Half-Life Alyx later in this podcast. I am not a little ways into it. See, I've been playing it for an hour, not to get too sidetracked here, but I've been playing it for about an hour. But since it is what it is, it's a VR Half-Life, I kid you not, the first 45 minutes just pretty much on the balcony fooling with stuff. This is not really a spoiler, but if you lean over that first balcony, and you will because you're going to be looking around, and look down to your right, there's a cat laying in a chair. So one of the first things I did was pick up a Coke can off of my balcony and throw it down onto the cat on the chair. And the cat meows and hisses and runs back inside the apartment. That's not part of the game. That has nothing to do with the story of the game. But that is how intricate and involved Half-Life Alyx is. Yes, I drew my fair share of anatomy on the glass, on the window with the dry erase markers. It's so fun. So I spent a good 45 minutes, an hour maybe, just in my own apartment in that game, fiddling around with things. It's so much fun. What the heck was I talking about? Oh, yeah. If you've been tinkering with any geek things, please let me know. If it's something that you can record, if it's something audio, if you've been making music, if you've been fiddling with an instrument or doing anything with noise or making noise, send me the audio of that. I'd love to have it. I'd love to feature it. But like I said, also, if it's something that it's not an instrument, you just want to tell me about what you've been up to, sure, just record on your phone and email it to me. geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. It's as simple as that. Record whatever, your little piece into the phone, tell me what you're up to, and then email that MP3, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. The email is, of course, in the podcast description. Okay, so I don't know if there's any real one single topic, meat and potatoes of the show today, but one topic I want to get to above all other topics, because it is something that I have harped on many times on Geek Therapy Radio. My regular listeners know that I've mentioned this numerous times before, here and there, and that is data caps. Not just with cell phones and your cell phone data plan, but your high-speed internet, whether you have fiber or cable or DSL or whatever you have, however you get your internet, it's always baffled my mind. It actually irritates me and angers me a little bit, truth be told, that data caps are still a thing in the year 2020. The first thing I thought of when you had this work from home order and self-quarantine and don't go into work and all of that, where we're basically going to be conducting more business from home, teleconferencing, all that good stuff, Skyping, Zooming, all of that, was the increased demand on the bandwidth, the increased demand on the network, on the infrastructure. And I believe I mentioned a few episodes ago talking about the impact that coronavirus would have on the supply chain and on the grid in the data infrastructure, not necessarily here in Houston, Texas, where it's 6 million people and it's very well built up, but in remote places of the world, remote islands, remote parts of countries where you don't exactly have all that bandwidth available, and the strain it would put on those communities that don't have the overflowing waterfall of bandwidth, that have a garden hose of bandwidth compared to people living in New York City and Houston and Los Angeles and Chicago and the major metroplexes of the world, Europe and Paris and London. There's places around that don't have, places elsewhere that don't have the bandwidth. So one of my first thoughts in this new normal that we have is that increased strain. Even though, yes, here in the United States, here in Houston, big city, I was genuinely questioning what, even with it built up here in this populated area as well as it is, what kind of strain would that put on the network? What's that going to mean for data caps? What are companies like Comcast going to do when people are going to absolutely shatter through their data caps? Are they going to charge people out the wazoo for it? Are they going to use don't let a crisis go to waste, don't let a good crisis go to waste, so to speak? Were customers going to get their bills in the next month or two and just have $500, $600, $700, $1,000 internet bills from using all the data for the video conferencing and all the Netflixing and all the gaming? Comcast has temporarily, for 2 months, lifted that data cap. Usually, they would charge customers an extra $50 a month for unlimited data. If you don't pay $50 a month for unlimited data, $50 extra dollars a month for unlimited data, you were charged $10 for each additional 50 gigabytes. You went over your data cap. So my data cap, I believe, per month is 1 terabyte. If I did 1 terabyte and 50 gigabytes, 1,050 gigabyte. If I went 50 gigabytes over my 1 terabyte data cap, that means I would be charged $10 a month for each additional block of 50 gigabytes. So if I went over by 60 gigabytes, that means a $20 extra a month charge. So Comcast has waived the data caps. Good on Comcast. It's rare that I say anything good about Comcast. And it's nothing specifically targeted against Comcast. This all huge telecom companies are not exactly the most, it can seem like they aren't the most ethical companies in the world sometimes. I don't think that's any strange scenario. There's a lot of little hidden fees and money grabs and just things that don't seem ethical. So Comcast, in this case, did the right thing. They took one for the team. They're helping their customers out for at least 2 months, waiving the data caps. When I was downloading Half-Life Alyx the other night, I noticed my speed had increased significantly. I was paying for, what am I paying for? Something like 200 megabits down and 50 up. I was downloading the other night at more than 400 megabits down. My actual bandwidth, my actual allocation went up 100%. They doubled my bandwidth, double my download rates. They haven't done, I don't think they've messed with the upload rate, but I downloaded Half-Life Alyx at over 40 megabytes per second, which is pretty good compared to my normal. My normal was I could get around 15 to 20 megabytes per second. So for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but they've widened my lanes, so to speak, and there is no more data cap for the next 2 months. Good on Comcast. Let's go over a little bit of numbers here in what Comcast has measured on their infrastructure. The end-all be-all of why I'm bringing this up is that they've removed the data caps and their network has no problem handling it. It turns out that in Comcast's case, at least, their network has absolutely zero problem handling the extra load on their infrastructure. That just further proves and points out that data caps are pointless, useless, arbitrary, thinly veiled money grabs. So going over a little bit of numbers here, Comcast says they've measured a 32% increase in peak traffic since the beginning of March, up to an increase of 60% in some parts of the U.S. So peak traffic. So when people get home from work, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, I believe 8 o'clock, rule of thumb, is the most highly traffic time on the internet. But by and large, on average, they've measured a 32% increase in peak traffic since the beginning of March, up to an increase of 60% peak traffic in parts of the U.S. That's a massive jump. VoIP, voice over IP, and video conferencing, no surprise here, is up. Well, actually, the number might be a little bit of a surprise, but it's not really that surprising. VoIP and video conferencing is up 212%. 212% more video conferencing and voice over IP. Staggering. VPN traffic is up 40%, and gaming downloads, so gigantic files like Half-Life Alyx. How big was Half-Life Alyx? Let me bring it up in my it's Steam here and right-click on it and see how big Half-Life Alyx is, because it ain't small. Can I see here? Local files? Disk usage. Okay, so it's not, it's big, but it's not that big. It's 64, almost 65 gigs on my Drive E. I have a Steam libraries spread across multiple drives. The games I play the most and applications I play the most are on my solid state drives, and then just the bulk Steam library games are on just traditional hard disk drives, platter drives. So Comcast has measured a 50% increase in gaming downloads. So again, massive files up by 50%. Streaming video, this is actually kind of surprising. So Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and all that, what would you think if you haven't already seen these stats? And again, this is just Comcast. This is not industry-wide. This is just Comcast. If voice and IP and video conferencing is up 212%, how far up do you think streaming video is up? So Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, like I mentioned, how much do you think that is up if video conferencing is up 212%? Would it surprise you to hear that it's up 38%? That's nothing to sneeze at, but I would have thought Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and Hulu and Disney Plus is the newest, biggest player in the game. YouTube, I would have thought all of that. If video conferencing and voice over IP was 212%, I would have thought video streaming would be up like 1,000%. I would not have been surprised if video streaming was up by 1,000%. I would have been, my eyes would have bugged out, but I still wouldn't overall have been that surprised. It would kind of make sense to me. So only up 38% for Netflix and Amazon Prime. I would have figured that those streaming services would have been running around with their hair on fire. The point to take away here, again, is that Comcast lifting those data caps has had no adverse effect, no droppages, no blackouts, no nothing, no strain at all on their network. So why do data caps exist? It is exposing data caps for what I've always suspected them to be: completely thinly veiled, unethical money grabs. And you might hear the telecom companies say, well, data caps are to make sure that everyone, is kind of have equal access to the internet, and no one's you don't have one neighbor on your street downloading 100 terabytes a month, clogging it all up for their neighborhood, so their neighbors can only download 100 kilobytes per second. No, it's all bullcrap. That's all bullcrap as far as data caps having any sway over peak usage or siphoning and rationing of the bandwidth. As far as data caps are concerned, data caps have no effect on that. None. Comcast is fine lifting the data cap. Their network is fine. If you go look at their servers and your ISP internet server, they don't have racks of servers and everything and switch nodes and modems and things catching on fire and bursting in the flames. They're not running around pulling their hair out. Their network is fine with lifted data caps. Now, as of this point, again, they've only lifted the data caps for the next 2 months. So what is that? March, April, May. So the end of May, thereabouts, and we'll see how long this kind of work from home stuff is extended. I say the data cap waiver is going to last until May 13th. But according to Ars Technica, it's too. Comcast says it's still too early to comment on what the company will do after that. I hope we go back to normal, just society in the whole, the world as a whole. I hope we go back to normal sooner than later. if Comcast says, things are kind of, people are going back to work and there's not that much strain anymore, well, we're going to reinstitute data caps. That's going to suck, but it will also mean a return to normalcy. The other thing, while I'm thinking about this, it's kind of off topic, but in the same topic, and you'll understand when I say it. A lot of companies are going to realize just how utterly pointless it is to have entire departments driving to work every day, using up electricity every day, having to pay rent on that department every day, having to pay for an IT team to be on site to make sure that that department that could be working from home is up and running every day. Those same IT people can be used remotely as well. Hey, Susan in accounting is having trouble. Just head on over to her house and make sure she's all up and running. Companies can give whatever hardware they need to their, for instance, sales teams. Why on earth do salespeople need to have a base of operations at one location? Now, I'm sure there's people out there that can give that explanation to me. Yes, it is impressive to take clients, for instance, the radio station. Most of our salespeople are working from home remotely. Catch what I'm saying there? Even here at the radio station, most of the salespeople are working from home and doing just as good a job in their underpants at home in front of their laptop as they would having burned a gallon of gas to get to work, having ran through all the electricity to run their computers while they're, doing whatever, all the phone calls, all that, the bandwidth they're chewing through a Comcast and Xfinity, all the resources those employees are using by having to burn all the fuel, use all the energy, and get to work, get to one central location. Someone could say, well, it's, as far as the sales team is concerned, in this example, I call it the bullpen. You have a bunch of cubicles, but it's everybody in one room, so that vice president of sales can just kind of stand by the water cooler and say, everyone's attention, please. We're going to focus all our attention to this account, convince this account to stay with us or go get a new account or whatever the president of sales is going to say to the team all in one place. Well, you know what? Can't you do that over the internet also? Can't you do that to people working remotely? It's 2020. The country in the world is proving that work from home works. The environment is doing better for it. There's not as many people on the roads driving needlessly to go to work at a central location when they could perfectly well do that sales job, that accounting job, that whatever job at home. So, here's this, bringing it back around here. Here's my point. There's going to be a lot of bosses, a lot of company meetings, higher up meetings saying, hey, back in coronavirus, working from home, our numbers weren't that far off. And in some cases, our numbers were better. And adjusting for the downturn in the economy, actually, we were doing better when people were working from home. Actually, it turns out people were more productive when they were working from home. So why on God's green earth are we spending rent money and mortgage for 20,000 square feet of cubicles, paying the electricity bill, paying for the air conditioning, paying for all that infrastructure, all that support structure, when we could be saving thousands upon thousands, if not millions of dollars a month collectively by just having everybody work from home? I think a lot of businesses are going to be asking themselves that. Now, there are essential employees that need to be there. There are people that need to work the forklifts. There are people that need to work the radio studio, and that's arguable. Many radio stations are in automation. Okay, little industry secret here. A little behind the scenes here at radio, in Radioland. When you hear, if you're listening to the music station, say you're listening to 94.5 The Buzz, and you hear the disc jockey come on in between songs to talk about the next song coming up, talk about whatever, entertain you between songs, talk about a concert, talk about tickets, giveaways, talk about whatever. Whenever you hear that disc jockey's voice come on between songs, that 99.99% of the time, not even joking, is pre-recorded. It's pre-recorded. It may be as little as a minute earlier they finished. It's called a voice track. They did their voice tracking for that hour, and there's a set amount of minutes. They can see the whole hour coming up in the log and know that they have, okay, here's 45 seconds here between these songs. Here's a 2-minute block here between these songs. Here's 1 minute and 35 seconds, 1 minute, 32 and a half seconds, whatever. They can see all the voice tracks that are coming up, and they can record all those. Boom, 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 boom. They can record all those within the first 10 minutes of the hour. Now, they're doing other stuff. Don't get me wrong. In radio, we wear a lot of hats. They're doing a lot more production work. They're voicing commercials for other stations. They're doing all sorts of other things. But the voice tracking is all pre-recorded. Those commercials are all pre-recorded. It's all pre-recorded. My point is, they can do that from home. And a lot of hosts already do their radio shows from home, in their closet. That's already a thing. Voice over IP, it sounds so good, and they're using the same microphones and equipment that they would have access to in the radio station, but it's just set up in their closet. It's just set up in their study, and they're doing it remotely. There's no reason why disc jockeys would have to actually come into the radio station and be adjusting the thermostat and turning lights on and off and using the computer and doing whatever, opening and closing the refrigerator in the kitchen. There's no reason. All of that can be done remotely. My freaking radio show, I pre-record earlier in the week, and then it airs Saturday night at 10 p.m. and Sundays at 6 p.m. I pre-record that days in advance. Well, usually 1 day in advance. I kind of wait for news and geeky things to percolate, and then I kind of make it as fresh as possible, if you catch my drift. But I do it at home. I'm at my home right now recording this podcast. That's not a strange thing to say. Most people record their podcasts at home. You don't need a radio station to record a podcast. All you need is a telephone, a smartphone to record a podcast. There are a lot of companies that are going to look at the numbers, and they're going to go to the higher ups and say, it is pointless to have accounting on site. It is pointless to have our sales team on site. What do salespeople do? Back to the salespeople example. When they need to go visit a client, what difference does it make if they're leaving their house to go meet the client, or leaving the office to go meet a client? I know it's impressive. Let's say iHeartMedia salespeople. Let's say they are working from home. It is more impressive to meet a client at the radio station. There's conference rooms. There's lots of guitars on the wall. It's a cool, kind of funky place to be. It's very impressive to bring a client to where the sausage is made, so to speak. That's the same for any company. Let's say, let's use Comcast. Salespeople for Comcast. They're trying to get a big, giant client. They're trying to bring the Houston Texans on as a client or something. The Reliant Stadium, is it still called Reliant? Whatever, NRG Stadium, I don't even know. They changed names so much. But they're trying to get they're trying to hook up a new sports station with internet. So Comcast is at the table trying to schmooze the owners of the new sports stadium, the new 70,000 seat sports stadium. Are they going to have those billion-dollar investors meet them in their driveway at home? Meet them in their breakfast nook? Nope. They'll go to the main Comcast headquarters in the big, impressive conference rooms and meet the clients there. I understand that for meetings like that. But if there's somebody in sales that's trying to sell a record shop, let's say I was trying to get Cactus Moon on as a sponsor, and I had one of the salespeople, this would be a dream, one of the salespeople from iHeart on my behalf try to go to Comcast and initiate go to Cactus Moon and initiate with Cactus Moon Record Shop. What difference does it make if they're leaving their home to go to the record store versus leaving the office to go to the record store? There's none. There's a whole lot of wasted money if they're leaving from the office. I spent a lot of minutes on this topic. Obviously, it's a point of contention and consideration that I think a lot of companies are going to look at their bottom line and say, why in the heck do we have 60 people burning 60 gallons of gas individually or collectively just to get to work? And then why do we have them running our air conditioner at 65 degrees? Why do we have them storing food in our refrigerator burning a kilowatt a day? And it all adds up, the microwave, the computers, everything. Why? Why do we have 60 people just chugging through $100 of electricity every day? And $100 of, well, God knows how much the rent is. It wildly depends. A lot of questions going to be asked after this. And I think that's one of the kind of silver linings of this coronavirus pandemic is when it's all settled, when we have the vaccine and people are going back to work, and it's just, we all look back on this, wow, that was, what crazy times. I think there's going to be a lot of people that they're going to get the okay from their bosses. They're going to shift to the remote work scenario again, saying, you know, we saved a lot of money when you were working from home, and you did just as much, if not more work. So stay home in your pajamas, in your underwear. Don't even put on pants. Hamburger, just stay naked all day. It doesn't matter. Put on some pants or whatever for a video conference if we need to do something, but record your show naked. I'd be lying. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I recorded at least one or two of these podcasts and radio shows with the leather of the chair sticking to my fanny. I think I've said too much. We'll see if my wife is still listening to podcasts day to day in her new routine, if she's going to ask me about it. Babe, I'm telling you right now, I'm sorry. What's the other thing I wanted to talk about? I had a few little tabs open here. Apparently Microsoft Edge is getting better and better. I can't comment too much about that because, like most people, I haven't used Microsoft web browsers in probably 10, 15 years. Probably. The only time you open Microsoft Edge is to download Chrome or Firefox. That's the only interaction most of us have with Microsoft Edge, is to download another browser. It's funny, but it's true. It's absolutely true. But apparently, and I can't verify myself personally because I haven't been dailying Microsoft Edge, apparently it's getting pretty darn good. Apparently, according to Ars Technica here, says expectations from doesn't suck to the level of, oh wow. So whatever. I mean, if I ever use Microsoft Edge and it doesn't suck, color me impressed. So that's all I'm saying about Microsoft Edge. It's apparently that it's becoming more and more popular. So there's only one more topic that I think I really wanted to get to today. I talked about Half-Life Alyx earlier. I think I'll just kind of leave it with what I mentioned earlier, which is basically that I've been playing it for an hour and a half or so, and a good hour of that was spent just on the balcony in my apartment right at the beginning of the game, because it's that awesome right from the beginning, just messing around with your environment. So that's really no spoilers, other than if you lean over the balcony and look to your right, bottom right, down below you, a floor below you, there's a cat, and you can throw a Coke can at it, or whatever. You can throw a beer bottle at it. I don't know why you'd be so mean to a virtual cat, but it does look amazing. To remind listeners, the specs of my VR gaming PC, which is also my workstation, is an i7-4790K from 2015, overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz, and my video card is a GTX 980. I have 32 gigs of DDR3 RAM as well, so that has no problems running Half-Life Alyx. The game is friggin' gorgeous in my Oculus Rift. Oh, I usually don't spend a lot of money on video games, period. Video games are expensive. It's $60. Half-Life Alyx is $60. I should rephrase it like this. Rarely do I spend full price for a video game. Very rarely. That said, even in my limited interaction thus far with Half-Life Alyx, it is worth every penny of $60. Every freaking penny. I talked with Clint from Lazy Game Reviews a couple episodes ago about Half-Life Alyx in depth. So if you want to hear more about that, go back a couple episodes to what is it, 155, I guess it's labeled, and listen to that interview. So I guess I'll quickly mention, before I want to get to the last topic, my thoughts on the MacBook Air. Again, I don't have a MacBook Air. The base model is not quad core. I guess that's one point I want to make. The base model i3 is still a dual core hyper-threaded chip. For any base model anything to be dual core hyper-threaded, especially a premium boutique device, even for Apple, even for the Apple tax. And I'm not going to slam the MacBook Air. It has the new Magic Keyboard. Gone is the old butterfly keyboard. From all accounts, it is a very reasonably priced premium machine. It starts at $1,000, but that's for the dual-core i3 version. All I'm saying is, no matter how good the machine is, it's still mind-boggling that a $1,000 machine can be a dual-core. That said, it is only $100 to upgrade to the i5, which is quad-core. So there's that new Magic Keyboard. The processors are better. It is a better i3. It is a better dual-core hyper-threaded i3. Graphics are better. Of course, all that good stuff. It has physical function keys. It does not have a touch bar. The ports are the same, 2 Thunderbolt Type-Cs. But still, base model, that's silly. Silly. I'm waiting for a 14-inch MacBook Pro. I hope that by the time a 14-inch MacBook Pro comes out, that I have enough money to get a 14-inch MacBook Pro. We'll see. I am not holding my breath. Let's see here. See, I was going to go out and try to... I just had my business cards all printed up. I have 500 Geek Therapy Radio business cards, and it's just so when I'm at a business, I could say, hey, I host a radio show. If you want to consider sponsoring, I'd love to, let's have a little talk about it. And I give them a business card. So I just gave a business card, new fancy business card, to a restaurant that we like to go to after church sometimes. It's called Tapesters. I actually need to call Tapesters up because one of the things I want to do with my show going forward, at least for the next few months, however long quarantine lasts, until we get back to normal, is I want to call up a bunch of businesses and say, hey, how you guys doing? Can I mention you guys for free? I know your business. It's not going to be a lie for me to tell people to go visit you. And that's what a lot of other radio hosts are doing anyways. They say, make sure you support small business. Well, I want to call Tapesters up, and I'll do that and say, hey, can I promote you guys a little bit here? I mean, I love your food and it will help you out, but I want to do that for a lot more businesses. I'd love to do that for Cactus Music. I would love to do that for mom and pop hobby shops. I would love to do that for a lot of places, retro video game shops. Say, hey, it's tough times right now. Can I help you guys out by promoting you, by reminding people to go to you for free, pro bono, right now, for free, pro bono. And then if you ever, when things get better, if you ever want to just, remember and have a little chat about, getting into a little deal together, we'll talk about it then. But I would love to help small businesses out now. So if you can think of any, or you have a small business you would like me to talk about, let me know. I think it's important to help small businesses, especially in a time like this. So back to what I was saying, I got my new fancy business cards. Not that fancy. All of this is out of pocket, mind you. It's all out of pocket. And then work from home and self-quarantine and social distancing, and you can't go to a lot of businesses. And I was all gung-ho to get out there and sell the show and start, turn the key on making a living off this. But then coronavirus happened, and I just don't think it's the greatest time in the world to go to businesses and say, hey, will you give me money now? No, it's just... So we'll see how I play this. We'll see how things work out. But fresh new business cards with no hands to give them to. For right now, things will get better, though. Fully anticipate things getting better. Okay, so the last story I wanted to talk about, because it's truly geeky and it's just so cool. how many of you are familiar with the Stratolaunch, the world's biggest aircraft, the world's largest aircraft? It's double fuselage. It has 6 engines. It is absolutely massive. It is a cargo plane that is designed to take other craft up into the air, among other things up into the air, other gigantic things up into the air. So the Stratolaunch has only flown once, and that was back in April of 2019. It was 2019. It was a 150-minute test flight. It reached speeds of just above 300 kilometers an hour. It was just to test, make sure everything's structurally sound, get a feel for it a little bit. Just an inaugural maiden test flight. It has not flown since. It will fly again. It's just all part of this development process. But there's one unique aspect of this. There's a lot of cool uses for this thing. But one of the coolest aspects to the Stratolaunch, is what it's going to do to help further development of the new supersonic flight industry. A lot of the noise, not just the sonic booms, but a lot of the noise involved with supersonic test flights is just getting the darn thing up in the air with ramjets and other technology and afterburners that are very loud. The Concorde was extremely loud because you have to take off with the afterburners. It's extremely, extremely loud. One way you can bypass that, and one of the biggest hurdles to supersonic testing, is comfort of those on the ground. You can't be flying over neighborhoods and cities with your afterburners on and constantly cracking the sound barrier at low-level flight. So if you can alleviate, if you can, a better word, if you can ease that discomfort and that concern, if you can ease that concern among the population and the regulatory bodies that be, then supersonic flight testing can progress all the further. And that's one thing that the Stratolaunch is going to be able to facilitate. It's going to be able to take these supersonic test airplanes up 40,000 feet in the air, release it from the belly of the beast. Even though there's 2 bellies on this beast, they can release it from the middle platform there. It's already 45,000 feet in the air, 40,000 feet, 35,000 feet up. It's quiet because it hasn't turned its engines on to get up there. I'm talking about the supersonic test vehicle. So the Stratolaunch, as it gets going, and the program gets going, and it's been operational, it's going to help the supersonic flight program immensely in its goals to bring supersonic flight to the masses, flying from New York City to Paris again in under 3 hours or whatever it was, flying from Houston to London in less than 4 hours. It seems silly it's kind of, when you think about it in a way, it's kind of silly that we had supersonic flight for a couple of decades and then we don't have any more supersonic flight. A lot of that, you would have thought that the Concorde wouldn't have been the first. You would have thought that Concorde wouldn't have been the last. You would have thought it would have been the first in many generations of supersonic aircraft, commercial passenger supersonic aircraft. But it was the first and last. Concorde was. And that's economics. It's just cheaper to run a 747, 787 international flights. There's all sorts of logistics, and you can't be doing supersonic flight over populated country, and it's just a whole nightmare. But as we develop quieter supersonic airplanes with quieter sonic booms and quieter engines, then we can push supersonic commercial flight all the further forward, and Stratolaunch is going to help that become a reality. How long is this one? Oh, this is another good juicy podcast here, coming up on about 45 minutes probably before it's all said and done. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to remind you again on the way out. I want to know what you're up to. What geek things are you up to? Have you been cleaning off old computers? Have you dusted off an old Commodore 64, Atari ST? Are you tinkering with old retro video games? Have you been building speakers, building RC aircraft, art? Have you been bust out your oils and pastels and colored pencils? And have you been drawing? Have you picked up an instrument like Dan? Have you picked up an ocarina? Have you been playing it like Dan? Have you been tinkering with your ukulele? Have you been playing more records, playing more video games, making more music? Whatever you're up to, programming more, developing more. I would love to know. Photography, making videos, whatever. I would love to know. So that's my reminder. Please let me know what you're up to. Send me some audio. You don't have to. You can just type, send me a message of what you're up to. But if you want to record something, I'd be happy to play it. Be happy to showcase it. Because it would help others. That's the whole point of Geek Therapy Radio is spark an interest in something. Have you listened to something and then you go look into it yourself? The Stratolaunch, did that sound cool? And go look it up. It's really cool. I said the word ukulele. Maybe you've been thinking about playing a ukulele, and me just saying ukulele is like, oh yeah, ukulele. Well, go do it. Now's as good a time as ever. Thank you for listening to Geek Therapy Radio. You're all worthy of love, both giving and receiving love. And you are worthy of your own self-confidence. One of the ways I think we gain that self-confidence a little bit each day is by fully embracing our geek things. And we can share that geek thing with others. So again, thank you so much for listening to Geek Therapy Radio. I am happy to be getting on somewhat of a more regular schedule with these podcasts. Hey, I'm actually releasing at least 2 this week, so I've got that going for me. Everybody, please be safe. Send me your geek things, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. Take care of yourselves, wash your hands, wash your butts, and I'll see you in the next one.
Wake up the dawn and ask her why. A dream, she never dies. Wipe that tear away now from your eye. Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high? Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova, a champagne supernova. 'Cause people believe that they're gonna get away from the sun. But you and I, we live and die. The world still spins around. We don't know how many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? Slowly walking down the hall, faster than